Go.
All right, so today is January 12th, 2017, and it's time for our community meeting. To start out, I think we have a meeting from a demo from Nitish on Minio and Kubernetes. And then we have some notes on the 1.6 release and an agenda item about the PM group features, a Sig update from Sig Cluster Ops, and a reminder about two-factor authentication. So why don't we start out with that demo?
Yeah, so hi everyone, thank you for joining. I hope you can see my screen now.
Not yet.
Not, yeah.
So is it visible now?
Nope, I still just see you.
Okay, just
There we go.
okay, so is the slide visible now?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, so hi everyone, thank you for joining. I'm Nitish from Minio team. I'm just going to give you a quick demo on how to provision Minio on standalone and distributed mode using the Helm package manager. So, but before we get started, let me just quickly introduce you to Minio. So Minio is an open source Amazon S3 compatible object storage server built for cloud native applications, written in Go and is licensed under Apache 2.0. So Minio stack has an object storage server. It has client for Minio server, and then we have SDKs in Java, Golang, Python, JavaScript. So another question I'd like to address before we go to the demo is why does Minio and Kubernetes make sense? So why you as a developer or a manager should bother whether why Minio runs on Kubernetes? So why should you bother about it? So the answer lies in the fact that Minio is based on a cloud native architecture. This means Minio is flexible enough to run anywhere and still robust enough to provide complete data security. So Minio focuses on just one thing, storage, and it does that very well. It leaves the resource management provisioning to orchestration tools like Kubernetes. And since Kubernetes already handles the whole infrastructure, it knows very well about the pods and the free volumes, and it just does the job better of handling the resources. So then Kubernetes and Minio enable easy to implement multi-tenancy. For a multi-tenant storage requirement, you can provision as many instances of Minio on Kubernetes and scale horizontally. And finally, Minio brings Amazon S3 to open source cloud infrastructure with the help of Kubernetes. So let's just go to the demo. I have a Kubernetes cluster running with 4 nodes on Google Cloud Platform. So first of all, and I'm using kubectl and Helm to install Minio. So I'll just show you kubectl version. The Helm version. So I'm using Kubernetes 1.5.1 and Helm 2.1.3. So I'll use the Helm package to install Minio. You can see that all the resources are listed here, and we are using for this by default installs provisions standalone Minio server with deployment with one node. So I'll just show the dashboard. So it's still getting created. Okay, so the pod is up. So and then we are using a cloud external IP load balancer service to access the Minio containers. So I'll just get the external IP and try to see whether we can access it. Yeah, so I have the IP.
Nitish, can you increase your font size somehow?
Okay,
Thanks.
is it better now?
Much better.
Okay. So the browser is accessible, and we can see that there's the 10 GB of free memory that we assign by default to the Minio container. So now what I'll do is I'll just delete this release, Helm release, and I'll just show Minio distributed. So Minio distributed uses stateful sets to deploy 4 Minio instances. Okay, so let's see whether it's deleted. Yeah, deployment is deleted, pods are deleted, claims and volumes are getting deleted. So just let's install Minio distributed. So to do that, you'll have to just set the mode equal to distributed, and okay. So let's see whether stateful set is, yeah, so we have this stateful set now. So the pod will come up and we can see what's going on inside the pod. So the first Minio instance has come up and it's looking for the minimum of 3 servers to come online. Then we have the second instance up and it is also looking for 3. So just wait for a couple of seconds to see all the pods come up. Okay, so the third pod is up. Okay, so it looks like all the 4 pods are up. So let us now see the external IP from which we can access the distributed Minio instances.
Nitish, just a heads up, like a 5-minute warning.
Yeah, please go ahead. So you can just enter the access key and secret key to access the distributed instance. The secret key instance key is mentioned the values.yaml file, which is in the chart. So that's it. So this is how you can use the Minio distributor and standalone instances using Helm package on Kubernetes. Thank you for joining and have a good day.
That was really neat. We have some questions, just some quick questions in the comments for you, Nitish. It looks like they were asking about dynamic provisioning, like the idea of being able to allocate a PVC and get a Minio bucket. So integrating, tying Kube's dynamic provisioning into Minio.
I'm sorry, I didn't get the question. Can you please repeat?
So they were wondering if you guys have thought about anything like integrating the Kubernetes dynamic provisioning into Minio, so that you could say, for instance, request a PVC and have it dynamically allocate a Minio bucket.
Okay, so that's, I think it's already there, because I still am not really clear about the question, but I think what the question is asking is, do we use PVCs to dynamically link the currently available persistent volumes and create the Minio server? So yes, we do that right now.
I believe the question was more about from the higher level, from the Minio itself, but
okay, so right now there's no native linking with Minio and Kubernetes, but yeah, we can take a look at that. So we hang out on Slack. It's minio.slack.io, and if there's any interest with natively integrating both of them, we can take a look at that.
All right. So, by the way, don't forget, if you have anything you'd like to add to the agenda, please do so.
Yeah, sure.
And so now we're on to releases. So we have 1.6, 1.5, and 1.4 release information. So let's start out with 1.6. Dan?
I think Dan only had the update of filling out the release team and looking for more roles in that, more people to volunteer for the varying role. I'm not sure he was able to make it today, and I forgot to mark that on the agenda.
All right. Well, if you're interested in helping out with the 1.6 release team, please, looks like there's a link in the agenda document. So please take a look at that, because it's always important to have people on the release team, and it's really, really useful.
And I can speak to that a little bit. Hi, this is Caleb at CoreOS. We're going to continue with the planning for the release tomorrow with Saad and the previous release teams. If you take a look at the document, and if you're interested in volunteering, you can ping us on Slack. I'm Caleb A. Miles, Dan's Ether Dan, or you can email our consolidated inbox at, and I'll put a link in the document. It is Kubernetes release at coreos.com until we get a better alias for the overall, until we get a ks.io domain there.
All right, so check out the link in the document for what kind of help is needed, it looks like, in the various roles that people in the release process take. All right, Saad, updates on the 1.5 release? Yeah,
so 1.5.2 went out last night with a bunch of changes that folks have been working on throughout the holidays. And 1.48 also went out last night, thanks to Jess. Both of them have a lot of patch fixes. We recommend everybody pick up the latest version and let us know if you have any issues.
Cool. So it looks like we have a new agenda item for a new GitHub project under the, using GitHub projects.
Yeah.
Apologies.
Hey, this is Garrett. I'm in the same room as Sutton. He's got his mic on. If you can just go ahead and click through to the link, but the general idea of projects is supposed to support kind of a Kanban style approach to project management. And at least for Contrivex, we figured we'd give it a shot and try creating cards for all the issues. And it's just an easy way to visualize some of the work that we're looking at right now. So some of the big items that we're focusing on is the owner's implementation. Currently running into a weird problem with GitHub's API and what they're returning for their comments on issues. And then we're also working on things like dealing with the number of outstanding issues. So there are 4,500 plus issues right now, and we're talking about ways at least to get them routed correctly. A lot of them are missing kind of key routing labels. So we want to encourage the use of the template for issues, for PRs, so that release note labels get set, so that area / labels get set, so that SIG labels get set. And we're sort of discussing the different strategies that we can use to do that. If you look at the GitHub project that's open to contrib, you can see some of the work items that we're using.
All right, very cool. Always neat to see new processes being put into place. All right, so next up we have Ihor talking about the PM group features, repo, and process progress.
Yes, so hello everyone. Beginning of this week, we had the meeting, the PM group meeting, where we have discussed several items. So I have pasted a few links into the meeting notes, so you can follow these links and read with more details about that. So first of all, we have discussed the proposal regarding having the PM group representative from every SIG. So that means that every SIG that we have in our community is covering some specific area, and from every SIG there should be some dedicated person. It can be a SIG lead, or it can be like some specific other person, not only the SIG lead, who will regularly report and stay in touch with the PM group. The reason for that enhancement is that we, as the product managers, we would like to be more in touch with the development teams, and we would like to be absolutely in sync, so not to miss anything. Because like sometimes in the previous releases, we felt that we sometimes are not on the same page. You can find the pull requests in the community repo in the meeting notes, and if you have any suggestions, feel free to add them there. Another item that we have discussed is the new features template. It is much more simplified than the previous one. So we have discussed it several times, like a few months before, also during KubeCon and Kubernetes Developer Summit. So the problem that we had before, that many people who are going to submit the new feature, who would like to develop the new feature, they're skipping the mandatory procedure of maintaining the issue template. So if you're submitting the new feature to the features repo, you have to update the issue template, maintain it, select all the checkboxes, and do it constantly. So many people are skipping this step, and like I can understand them, because like most people are developers, and like simply would like to develop the code and would like to avoid this big part of bureaucracy. So we have discussed, and there is a proposal to simplify the new features template. So right now, if you are going to submit a new feature, you simply have to select a few checkboxes, and after that, if you are going to update the issue with the feature submission, you have to simply update the thread, and all the subscribers to this thread will receive the notifications and continue speaking with you. Another item that we have discussed during and after the meeting in the mailing threads that is the features tracking spreadsheet. So as most of you may remember, we have maintained that feature spreadsheet since 1.3 release. And this spreadsheet was reflecting the actual state of their features repo. And many people have concerns regarding it. What is like the final source of truth? So is this a spreadsheet, or is the features repo is the source of truth? So the brief answer is the spreadsheet is simply reflecting the features repo, but the actual features are tracked in the features repo itself. We also had some requests to enhance this process. So if you have any questions, let's discuss them now, or let's discuss them in the mailing threads that are ongoing in Kubernetes Dev and Kubernetes PM. I have pasted the current draft of the spreadsheet for 1.6 with the actual features that are marked with 1.6 milestone in the features repo. So that's mostly all from me. Any questions regarding these updates?
I think there's general community consensus from several folks in the community that we've bantered on several different SIGs about what the buy-in was from different SIG leads on the processes that would be incorporated. Because to many folks, it felt like a feed-forward system where you guys had developed a new process, and although you had announced it on the dev list is very noisy. So sometimes we do ignore those channels and batch them from time to time. And we would like to know, or at least have way or buy-in before processes get instituted. I don't know if that was a consideration or thought process that was involved.
Yeah, I mean, just to echo that, right? The external perception is that the PM group met, and then a couple of hours later, everything changed, kind of. So I feel like there could have been a little more openness or inclusiveness or heads up that this was going to be discussed. The second comment I had, this is just to echo something I sent on Kubernetes Dev. I really feel like this whole SIG PM representative thing is a very inverted role. Now, maybe I have the wrong perception here, but I feel like if you're a product manager who cares about a feature, it's your responsibility to go find an owning SIG. And then it's your responsibility to go check in with that SIG from time to time to make sure that they're actually implementing your feature. Further, I think that some features are large enough that they cut across multiple SIGs, and I think it should be the onus of, it should be on the feature owner to actually take care of collaborating amongst multiple SIGs and tracking their status, rather than forcing this work upon many SIGs who don't necessarily have features, right? So I agree that perhaps what you're looking for is a point of contact in a SIG, which there I would definitely default to the SIG leads, but I think that in requiring yet another piece of responsibility on SIGs when they're not usually the ones who come up with the features in the first place seems a little backwards.
I think your point is very well heard. In my opinion, I think what we're trying to do is prevent and forgive me for using such strong language, but kind of fire and forget pattern that has somewhat emerged about people proposing a feature and then, without necessarily having SIG backing, without having committed reviewer bandwidth, without having committed developer bandwidth, and then the thing just kind of lays out there. I don't want to add any weight to SIGs either, to be sure. But we are looking for people, when they propose a feature, to have engaged with some people in the relevant areas and get some verification that is something that feels correct.
I heard some conversation about you report status to me, no, you come get status from me. Is it this direction or that direction? Could we step the conversation up? Maybe not now, but in the future, to a higher level, how does everyone collaborate? What value does each role bring? What is the life cycle of a feature? What's the life cycle of a release? What is each person? The PM group is going to add value X, Y, and Z ways. Here's why you want to take the time to give us status, whether you're a SIG or a feature owner or whatever. So kind of, because when I work with PMs, it's collaborative. We have conversations both way and teach each other stuff. Let's figure out what that looks like in Kubernetes.
That sounds good to me. I would say that to your point, and also to Aaron's point, I think there is stepping back a little bit about the roles and the responsibilities. I think there's an importance in understanding what everyone is working on at any given time, especially as you get near the release. It's like often very difficult to figure out what is actually ready to make it on the release bus. And that is not a kind of scalable process moving forward. I think there certainly is a concern about just simply assigning more and more roles to the SIG leads without, kind of a buy-in in the process. And I think that's certainly something problematic and something that I've personally tried to push back on whenever possible. So I don't know, I guess in the particulars of this issue, but defaulting new responsibilities to SIG leads, I think certainly that we need to have a discussion about how can we expose what people are working on so that we know what's going in and out of the release. We know whether SIGs are overloaded, whether things are getting reviewed in a timely fashion, so that the community itself is more enjoyable to work in.
By the way, this is Aparna, and I'm sorry I'm a little under the weather. One thing that there are many PMs in the PM group who want to volunteer to be a representative for particular SIGs. But I believe at least some of the feedback we've received is that the SIG leads would like to have say over who their PM representative is. And so, which is why the proposal was that if you would like to be a PM representative for a SIG, please reach out to the SIG lead, and the SIG lead would select who the PM representative is. And that PM representative should be a part of the SIG so that they can have state and influence the future direction of all the features from that SIG.
And I think following on Eric's point, this is really about presuming that the intent of the PM group was good and that it is about collaboration, and maybe this message wasn't delivered as easily or as well as it could have been, because we have had, I've seen some feedback about, please don't tell us who our PM representative should be from some SIG leads, and then I've had other SIG leads going, it can't be, don't say it has to be me. So I think this is more about how to figure out the right way to implement a new process, as opposed to this process or this idea is a bad idea, because we all agree that we want better communication and better fluidity from the point where someone proposes a feature through to its actual inclusion in a release. So let's also not get stuck on this specific let's certainly try to figure out a way to get that communication moved back and forth, but not necessarily get stuck on is it a push or a pull mechanism, or how come we didn't get more say? Because I think that we announced last week in the community meeting that this was going to be discussed in the PM group over the next couple of weeks. And so asked people to participate and offer feedback there. And it may have just come out more quickly than some of us expected.
You want to wrap this up, or can I add one more comment?
I'd say that's Sully's question.
I think we have time for one more comment, but after that, we should probably move on.
I would have loved to see an email that said, the PM group would love to provide the following useful services to SIGs. By the way, we can do that best if you give us updates that look like this.
All right. I think we'll move on to SIG updates, but first, Ihor, it's probably not a bad idea to also drop some information in the agenda about the PM meeting itself, and maybe the list of where you sign up to be the representative, just so people have a quick way to look at that.
Yeah, sure.
And I'm sure
All
we have
right.
I just wanted to add that the PM group is a volunteer group. It's not necessarily a particular designation of person. And in the past, it's been a mix of engineers and various other types of people that are interested in participating at an overall level. And I think that's how we expect that to continue. So, but if the PMs aren't involved in the SIGs, then it's sort of it's a little bit removed from where all the work is taking place, and it's difficult to play that role without being involved in a SIG.
All right. So next up, we have a SIG update from Sig Cluster Ops.
All right. Hello, everybody. I don't know, is Rob on the call? I can't see.
I'm here searching for my unmute button. Jason, you.
Hey, hey, so yeah, so basically the updates, we'll try and keep it short and sweet. Essentially, what we're trying to do is really revitalize and reinvigorate the Sig Cluster Ops community. Because as more and more releases of Kubernetes march on, there are more and more people out in the field that are starting to implement, and sometimes even versions behind and whatnot. So really trying to talk about the operator lifecycle and re-envision sort of what our role in the community is. I think it's a little different for us because we're not necessarily as much feature-facing. We don't do a lot of coding, but we really want to do is focus on things like documentation and other ways in which we can assist the community and negotiate the Kubernetes landscape. So one of the ways that we want to do that is to look at possibly doing a 2017 Operator Summit. And so some of the things that we've talked about doing in that regard are piggybacking on a existing conference. Right now, we're looking at maybe GlueCon as a possibility for that, because there's a great Kubernetes community across Denver and Boulder. And so we'll definitely be making some more announcements about that. We'd love to get people who are in the area to come to the summit, because the more operators in the room, the better, and looking forward to facilitating some great discussion there. I mentioned that we're working on revitalizing the SIG and uniting the operator community, and that's really our mission for 2017, is to bring the operator community together. Lastly, we're looking into the idea of an ops advisory system for issues that might have specific production impact for our operator community. Essentially, we want to be able to notate in some way, either via a label or something like that, to figure out how do we bring attention to the operator community so that they don't have to scroll through all the issues to understand which ones are going to necessarily affect them. We're seeking input on that. We have a meeting today. And the meeting for the cluster ops today is at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard. And I'd love for people who want to weigh in on the labeling strategy to come to that meeting, because that would be super helpful.
So, and Jason, I love what Jason stepped in the last couple of weeks, and it's really made a big difference in this. I think, you know, I'm super excited because we're being very concrete. We're having real operational discussions about things that matter to operators, even, you know, things like backing up and migrating etcd in advance to the next deployment. So I don't, you know, I just want to put that fine sort of, we talk about very specific things, very practical implementation stuff in that meeting. And so it's a great place to come and learn and talk and be part of that community. So I want to really reinforce that. It's good. And we're going to move, some of the documentation efforts off to sideline stuff. So we still want to do documentation. We're still spending a lot of time on that, but it's not going to take over the meetings anymore.
Yes, less minutia, more getting some demos and stuff on the board. So thanks for the time.
All right, very cool. Look forward to hearing more about the Operator Summit in future meetings. All right, so we have a notice, a very important notice. Please enable two-factor auth on GitHub. It will be required starting tomorrow, it looks like. And if you do not have two-factor auth enabled tomorrow, you will be kicked out of the organization. So you should do that. It's a win for security, and it will be required.
Is that Kubernetes or GitHub, period?
Kubernetes.
It's the Kubernetes organization. We are enabling a requirement for two-factor authentication.
For Kubernetes incubator as well.
I applaud that.
Yes.
I know how I was worried about global repercussions if it was a global change.
No, but Kubernetes incubator and Kubernetes org.
Kubernetes specific. All right, does anybody have anything else that they would like to talk about today? Any questions, comments, concerns, things they would like to share?
I have two questions or comments on the feature stuff. The first one was, we talked last week a little bit about a moratorium on design proposal review, and then there was a long email thread on Kubernetes dev, and I'm not actually sure what the conclusion or outcome of all of that was. So it's unclear to me today, given that we just talked about a brand new feature process, if I can even introduce a new feature into 1.6 at the moment. Do we have consensus on that, or is there a forum where we should decide that? I would really like to get some.
I don't think sorry, we don't have any restrictions for 1.6 at the moment. At the same time, proposing a new feature, you have to remember that we would like to see brand new features in 1.6 because in 1.7 because 1.6 is going to be like more stabilization release, and we expect to have more features that have already been developed for the previous releases. But as far as I remember, we haven't agreed in that thread that we will have the wall moratorium for wall 1.6 release for reviewing the new features.
Okay, so we'd like features, but part of getting a feature introduced into alpha is to have a design proposal put through, and then to have that proposal reviewed by a SIG owner, I think, and then to get that merged. And it's that process that we have just decided maybe to halt for 1.6. Then it sounded like maybe we were talking about deciding that on a SIG by SIG basis. And so it's just kind of unclear to me, like, if we're actually going to be accepting new work and what the process for that looks like. So that's just one comment. We should revisit this on the Kubernetes dev mailing list because it seems a little unclear to me.
It sounds like we haven't reached any firm consensus, so there's no explicit ban in place right now, but just tend towards stabilization and kind of stabilization related things.
It might be one thing we want to resolve before the features freeze, which I think is in like a week and a half. So we should think about that. The second comment is about Ihor's comment on the spreadsheets not being a source of truth and the features repo instead being a source of truth. I know that's how we want it to be, but frankly speaking, that's not how it was for Kubernetes 1.4 and 1.5. The spreadsheet was always more up-to-date and more informative than the features repo. If you really want to say that the spreadsheet is not the source of truth, then we should either get rid of the spreadsheet entirely, or we should find a way to automatically generate that spreadsheet based on the contents of the features repo. I understand that a spreadsheet is a great tool for collaboration, especially at a PM level, just to get a quick snapshot of what's going on, but I don't think that's any excuse for using that in lieu of the features repo. If that's really the right mechanism to share information, but we want the features repo to be the source of truth, we should find a way to derive that information from the features repo and make a spreadsheet every time. I mean, for what it's worth, I'm also in favor of just abandoning the features repo entirely and saying the spreadsheet is a much more human-centric solution that works well in terms of communicating status and whatnot. But just like if we are really saying the features repo is what we want, then we should make it machine readable, and we should either abandon spreadsheets entirely or make sure that they are not like human input, they're machine generated.
In an ideal world, I'd like to see the spreadsheets as the machine generated. We yesterday had a brief conversations with Class P, as far as I remember. So Yes, so in ideal world, we have to use the Kubernetes features repo as the place where the features are proposed, and ongoing discussions regarding the features happen. At the same time, we require some mechanism that will allow us to review the current status of the features briefly. So,
if I can add, I just wanted to add a little bit of context. I know the 1.5 retrospective took place late in December, and not everybody might have had a chance to attend it. So just wanted to give some context that there's been positive feedback before 1.5 on the features repo, in that people have said that this is the first time that there's one place where they can see what's in the release. B, in the retrospective, there was a lot of feedback that the features repo is not up to date. And we need to do something to make it less complicated and also more sort of maintained during the release. And then there's a key piece of feedback around making sure that every feature in the features repo has a SIG owner, a SIG approver, and a link to documentation. This is just raw feedback from the 1.5 retrospective, which is available over YouTube, and the notes are also available. The action item was given in that retrospective that the PM group should meet in early January and come up with a new process and propose that to this group, which is why the PM group met earlier this week and made the proposal that the group did. Also, the proposal itself was driven by a community discussion where Brian Grant, Clayton, Bob Wise, many folks have given input to what should be in the features repo template. And Ihor had taken upon himself to create a PR with the input from that thread. I think we can link that thread here, just because I think there's some concern that people don't know where this process came from or why we're working on it. So I just wanted to provide that context for anyone who missed the retrospective or missed the threads that were going on around this. I know there's a lot of stuff going on in the community, and not everyone is interested or even aware of all the discussions. So hopefully that's helpful context.
And there's a link to the new template up under the PM group agenda item, the proposed new template. I would encourage people to go take a look at it. It's, I think, significantly less complicated than the old template, and hopefully a little bit clearer and easier to fill out. So that should encourage people to keep their features issues up to date.
At the end of the day, the purpose of it is to provide everyone visibility and to provide the release team an easy way to capture what is and isn't in the release and to track documentation. That's the purpose. So we're looking for input, and we just tried to capture some of the input we've received so far.
I'd also like to plus one. I think Ihor said, I think we all agree that the features repo is incredibly valuable. I think it absolutely needs views on it that provide more human readable summaries, and ideally that is some form of spreadsheet generation or it could just be a web page generation for all that matters. But as it stands, the feature repo is not terribly consumable by people who aren't deep in it. So, if someone would like to work on tooling and work with Aparna, who has gotten a ton of feedback about, ways to improve, and other folks who have gotten a ton of feedback, I think that'd be incredibly valuable.
I will say from my personal experience, just to add another anecdote, I find the features repo very useful for pointing other people at, especially people, PMs, sometimes like some of our salespeople and whatnot, when they're like, how is this feature coming along? I can be like, well, take a look at this feature repo feature, and you can see the progress of the design proposal, any work in progress, PRs, and whatnot like that. So I find it very useful for that.
Yeah, so some of them have that, and I really like. I made a lot of the comments as well during the retrospectives about how the features repo is really out of date and difficult to generate release notes from. It's difficult to track the status. So I'm very familiar with all this stuff. I don't want to detract from that. I just think that I hope we're not putting too much process in place to accommodate the fact that the people who were assigned the feature issues didn't actually go chase them down, right? If I think the person to whom an issue is assigned is considered the feature owner, then I would expect that feature owner to be responsible for making sure all the checkboxes are checked for their feature and making sure they've tracked down the right people. And I just didn't so much see that happen. And it was kind of unclear to me, like maybe we were hoping that by having a very clear checklist and a bunch of roles and stuff defined, that people would sort of organically figure this out. And perhaps we're hoping that by simplifying it, people will still sort of organically figure it out. But I guess I'm just sort of cautioning that it seems like there was a human problem of nobody actually just continued to chase this down. And I hope that we paid more attention to that more than anything.
I would like you to review the proposal that we had during the meeting, like regarding the enhancement of the current process. So we like to simplify the situation and to avoid like having some issues that you have described.
Sure. There's a pull request about the issue template. Is there a pull request about the proposal for the process? Because I saw there was a Google Doc. I don't know if there's like a GitHub issue or pull request I could comment on.
Yes, there's a thread. There's a thread on Kubernetes dev started by Garrett.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we need a feature issue to track the features process improvement?
Whatever is convenient for people to provide feedback, we should do. If we need a features issue, we can do that. I don't think it should be in the features repo. That's not the purpose of the features repo, but we can have an issue to track the discussion.
That was a little tongue in cheek.
All right, I'm done.
Okay, one other
we can also describe this. We can also describe this and document in the features repo as one of the documents for the ongoing process. So we can also submit an EPR and do that.
One other clarification I wanted to offer, because some folks asked this question, how often does the PM group meet? So currently the PM group is not a SIG. The PM group meets at least 3 times a release. It could meet more if needed, but currently the process is that we meet before the features repo submission deadline to take a look at what's coming in for the release. And if we had PM representatives assigned to each SIG, then those PM representatives can go back to the SIG and say, hey, these are the features that I see that are affecting this SIG. Can you please make sure, or I would like to make sure that everything has an owner. It's not necessarily the PM representative that is a feature owner, but the PM representative is aligned to a SIG and makes sure that any features impacting that SIG, the SIG is aware of and knows that those features are in the features repo for the release. We meet again to take a look after the features repo close deadline. We take a look and go through all the features in the features repo to make sure that they're actually complete. And if they're not complete, then we go back to the SIGs and the feature owners to say, hey, your feature is not complete. Either it can't be accepted for the release, or please complete it. And part of the discussion in the document is based on the retrospective. We were asked to find some more enforcement mechanisms. So part of the discussion in the document is, hey, can these be enforcement mechanisms? And that's also where we're seeking input on what enforcement mechanisms should we use. That's also in the community thread, the discussion thread. And then the last time that the PM group meets is at the end of the release to track, what's in the features repo. And then, of course, the release team takes over and starts to pull those things into a spreadsheet, and then, documents and blogs and so forth get created from that. So that's the current process.
Is there a link? I know, like in the README of the community repo, right? There's like links to the meetings for each of the SIGs, and so you can easily see like if I need to join this and I forget what the link is, I can go and look there. Is there a place for the PM group meetings as well that people can look up if they need to join?
Well, at the moment we are meeting like on the ad hoc basis. At the same time, we may document with more details, like how and when we are going to meet.
But please join the PM group Google group mailing list where the meeting times are announced there.
Yes, absolutely, because all the meetings are announced there.
There is also a request for an update on the GitHub directory for project managers as well. And I think that is worth having a lot of the summary, or putting some summary information about the Kubernetes PM group into that, because right now it's fairly empty.
All right, so we have 9 minutes left. Does anybody have any last minute questions, comments, concerns?
We got a question from someone interested in doing a Google Summer of Code project in the Contributor Experience Working Group. I think, so the deadlines for organizations to submit their applications is the 19th of January, so that's next week. So if you are an organization that thinks, helping to pull in college or graduate students into the open source communities is important. We should get together and talk about, mentorship if you are interested, and what it would take to sponsor an application as an organization. Here at CoreOS, we're going to try and sponsor one as well. I don't know, Sarah, maybe you could talk about if Google as an organization or if the CNCF as an organization is planning on sponsoring one as an organization. But we should probably start working on that now.
Yes, so I sent out an email yesterday to Kubernetes dev asking if there were interested mentors, and we can either as individual companies around the Kubernetes project or as the whole of the Kubernetes project be a sponsoring organization. So generally I think it is, so like CoreOS might sponsor etcd as a Google Summer of Code project, but the Kubernetes community would need to do Kubernetes. So we've had one person say he or she was interested in volunteering as a mentor, and a couple of people shared some experiences that they have had as mentors. I have been a Google Summer of Code mentor, and it was it was a good experience on the whole. It was not an enormous amount of time, but that might be because the project that my student had was very small. So if we want to sponsor or be an organization participant of the Kubernetes organization wants to be a participant of the Google Summer of Code, Google Summer of Code would love to have us. So we just need to put together a list of potential mentors, and we will put forward a proposal for that. So mostly we just need to know about interest. To me, to Caleb, to Cameron, we'll pull it all together from there.
Okay, cool. Look for the mailing list email then, I guess.
I've got one more thing, which is thank you, Sully, for being our first SIG leader to run the community meeting. Okay, not the first ever, but the first in this 2017 rendition where we're moving this to be a thing that the SIG leads do a couple times a year. Thank you, thank you.
Happy to help. Thank you to Jason for taking notes again. Awesome notes. And I think we're pretty much out of time. So that concludes today's community meeting.
See y'all next week.
Happy Thursday.